Hello, my name is Kate Russell. I'm a technology reporter and author. I have been reporting on technology since 1995. I've been a gamer since 1984, and for the last 12 years I have been a regular contributor to the BBC technology show Click. Today I was invited to do a keynote address at the Women in Cybersecurity networking event with InfoSecurity magazine. It was my privilege to stand up in front of a room full of wonderful women and a scattering of men who are all working in cybersecurity about my experience as a woman in technology. Now, I'm not a woman in cybersecurity necessarily, although in my work as a technology reporter I cover cybersecurity issues, but it was really just sharing sort of like some of my thoughts about how we can get more young girls interested in working in technology, some of the obstacles that perhaps women will face when they go into the workforce, when they're looking at working in male-dominated environments, that perhaps there's a tendency for unconscious gender bias, particularly when you're sort of working for a board of directors that's made up of white middle-aged men, and really just sort of like hopefully giving them some tips on coping mechanisms and how to handle resolutions and conflicts within those kinds of environments without it escalating uncontrollably, so that they can be more effective in the workplace, and also that they can perhaps educate the people that they work with about how to be a better person. In recent years, I think people have begun to realise that there is a distinct lack of diversity, not just gender diversity, but diversity across all aspects of humanity. And there's increasing there's increasing evidence that having a diverse workforce is good for profit, it's good for the well-being of your company, of your team. It promotes a much more stable and happy working environment. So for many, many reasons, it's good to have diversity in the workforce. In gaming, actually 43% of gamers in the UK are female. And yet only 19% of the gaming workforce are female. And those figures are reflected across the IT industry in general. So there is a disparity in the number of women who are using technology and the number of women who are involved in working in building and designing that technology, and that's what we need to fix. And over the last decade or so, the industry, society has become very aware of this and is working very hard to try and fix it, because companies want to be more profitable, they want their working environments to be more stable and their staff to be happier and their talent to stay with them. And so that's really what I campaign for, is how we can create a better working environment to attract more women. In cybersecurity as well, there is a skills gap, like a massive skills gap. There's apparently about 1 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs worldwide at the moment, according to Intel, and that will grow by a further 500,000 by 2019. The two things that I think that are really important is, one is unconscious bias. Companies need to be aware of the fact that unconscious bias exists, and you can take an unconscious bias test. I took an unconscious bias test a few years ago, and despite the fact that I spend the majority of my working life campaigning against bias, gender bias, I suffer from unconscious bias. And so I think just being aware of the fact that unconscious bias exists in your organisation and taking steps to make your staff aware of that, so that they can alter their behavioural patterns to create a more welcoming environment for minority groups, be they women or any aspect of minority diversity. The other thing is mentorship. And again, I had one woman stand up and say that her boss said she couldn't have a mentor because all the places were filled. Mentorship should not be a limited resource. Everybody should be entitled to go to their superior and ask to be connected with a senior member of the team or a senior member in the company who'd be willing to just talk to them, give them help and advice, help them further their career. Everybody should try and get a mentor. We have, for the last 10 years or so, I would say, the technology industry generally has been campaigning and working towards trying to get more young women into technology-based roles. And that's the case across the cybersecurity industry as well, but across the wider technology sector. We haven't really seen very many positive results over the last 10 years. And the reason for that, I believe, is that people's sort of like beliefs and ideologies about life, psychologists believe, are set by the age of about 7 years old. So of course, sort of societal biases that say women wouldn't be good in technical roles, women won't be good engineers, women won't make good programmers, whatever. They're kind of ingrained, and we needed to get right down to the grassroots to start working on that and get more girls into technology. And of course now, 10 years on, those sort of like 7-year-olds, 6 and 7-year-olds are now 16, 17, and they are beginning to choose technology-based education streams. So we are seeing now a serious uptick in the number of women who are choosing technology and ICT-based degree courses to study. I suspect over the next 2 to 3 years, we are going to see the serious lack of women in technology-based roles in the UK is about 16% at the moment, and engineering it's like 8%. I think that we're going to see a good leap in those statistics over the next sort of like 2 to 3 years as we start seeing the 16, 17-year-olds that we've been working on for the last 10 years come out of university and go into the workplace.